may not have been an original speaker even. It probably was. I mean, being that the radio wasn't that old when I got my other 160, but, you know, I like my little Pioneer here. So, yep, W2SDR.
Excuse me.
Well, excuse you, Rob.
Good morning, gentlemen. Oh, is it? No, geez, I just woke up again, so. Hey! Hello, Frank. Hello, Perry. Good to hear you on the AM carrier net. Like I said, thanks for stopping. Your dad's, I don't know, was today mentioned something about knowing your dad for how many years, and then, you know, now join the radio. I don't know if it was Gary, W1GHW, or no, it's K1IC now, was on the AM carrier net. So both of your names came up today. When? I don't remember. What day is it?
It's Sunday. Well, I've known Gary for many years, and I'm one of the guys that first started that net with Steve, K2FW, and what's his name, W2. I'm trying to remember his name. The guy up on Long Island. I mean, this is going back maybe 16, 17 years ago. And there was an issue with that net because some other group was called the AM carrier net before that AM carrier net. So there was some, like, dispute over the name.
Yeah, I think I've been on with them about 2012 or so. I've been with them for a long time. Yeah, Steve, K1 Fuzzy Wuzzy there. So yeah, I just sent him an email, and yeah, Joe up in Stonington, Connecticut, and N1ALF. Jeez, I can't remember anybody's call. I can't remember when I on key to Mike. Somebody remind me of my call signs. I'm having a senior moment or something. I went downstairs to get something. I forgot what I went downstairs for, so I went back upstairs. Now I forgot why I was upstairs. Jeez, this sucks getting old.
VTP, Al. K1 VTP, or I know it's VTP, Al. But yeah, K1IC was talking about saying how you knew you Pop for a very long time, and how you're a staple and here on AM for a very long time. Talk real highly of you. Because he found out that you were my son. I was your son. So yeah, he was mentioning that. But yeah, that's the first time I ever checked into that net. I always forget about it. And then I was tuning around this morning and seeing the carriers in there, no pun intended, and I figured I'd check in. But no, it was cool. And if I remember again next weekend, I'll check in. But nope, sounded good down here, Rob. Everybody's sounding good. Band's in great shape. W3MMR.
Hey Frank, Gary called you stable.
Well, Gary's a good guy. We used to get on 160, and it'll probably go on again this year in the wintertime. Gary and I and Mike, W1RF from Cape Cod, 1885 at about 5:30 every morning. And when Gary had his other call, he's had many different radios over the years, and so has Mike, W1RF. Mike, you don't hear him in the window anymore. He kind of split from the window like a lot of guys did when they opened up the bottom half of the band, you know, a few years back to Americans. That's when we lost a lot of AMers up here in the window. A lot of them just moved down to that lower part of the band and never came back.
I guess N1ALF there. Identification time. Yeah, I've known Gary from the radio. It's here, and I think the AM carrier. Now he lives a couple towns up. Matter of fact, he lives in the town. My free Henry came, the free Yaesu amp, and the ICOM IC735 that I got in the 6-gauge wire that's on the coil now there. So operating the 160 antenna system, and one of the members of his club there was out on DMR calling in the 2-meter and the digital DMR looking for somebody trying to get rid of this stuff there and donate it to a club or something. He wanted to donate it to a club because he was leaving for Arizona and he wasn't taking all this stuff back. I mean, you know, the Henry's a big thing. He just didn't have room. The new place wasn't going to accommodate anything. He says when he gets down there and things settle, he'll start buying all other stuff there, you know, more a little compact and, you know, more, you know, easier in his environment down there. And so I don't know if you heard the story, but all I said to him, I said, Steve, I says, what do you consider a donation? I says, like, yeah, it has to be to a club. It couldn't be to somebody. He says, what do you mean, Rob? I says, well, would you donate it to me? I says, I don't have any cash. You know, I'm not purchasing anything now. So he says, get it out of here by Monday. It's yours.
There you go.
And you stepping in, Poop, and you got the virus now. Hey, Frank, your son's got the virus. He's got the bug, man. Not one radio's enough. And I'm glad to see you get into the vintage boat anchor stuff. I mean, I'm the same way. I am, you know. There's a thumb mark on there. Somebody touched my radio. And I'm the same thing. I like to have it nice and pristine and nice and clean there. And that last piece of unit you got there, what was that? Still in the wrapper, Harry?
No, it was. My father had put an ad at our local club. I'm a member now. I wasn't a member at the time, and we have an email reflector for, you know, wanted ads and classified, so on and so forth. And put on there that I was looking for an HQ 140, 129, 160. So and a guy had a 140 right across the bridge here, about maybe 15 minutes from me, right over New Jersey. And he paid $100 for it, and it's just been sitting in his basement, and he was moving and trying to downsize, and wanted to get rid of it, and gave it to me what he paid for, $100. And once cleaned up, the cigarette tar, I think, I found it as a preservative, and it put a nice coating of wax, basically, on everything, and I cleaned it all up, man, and it ended up, it cleaned up real nice, as you've seen online there, Rob, and it works great. It could use a little recentering, you know, to get it on frequency a little bit. The dials are a little bit off, but not by much. It works. I mean, it works great for AM. Sideband, I mean, it can be, you know, doesn't work real great as it come to be expected. It's not quite the receiver that my NC303 is, but it works fine. And the reason I wanted it, because my old man has one. He's had one for years, and the first time I saw it, I fell in love with one. I fell in love with it. I always wanted it, and then he sent me a video of how it sounds, and I really fell in love and said I had to have one. And that was right after he had gotten his HQ 160 at the Hamfest. And there was an HQ 129 for sale with the 160 that I wish I would have bought. I was kind of kicking myself in the butt for, because I could have got it for pretty cheap. But I found the 140, got it, cleaned it up, and now it's sitting over there on the bench here on the other station. So I like it so far. W3MMR.
W1SDR remote control.
Oh, we had a remoter there. Go ahead, remoter.
You had the remote, WA1STH, from the woods of upstate New York.
Hello, Steve.
Everybody?
I don't know what anybody said then. I missed it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Never mind. You had to hear it the first time. Hello, Steve. Good evening on your remote, yes? Hopefully coming next year after everything else in line getting done, we'll be remoting too. So, yeah, Perry, the 303 is a receiver, Joe Walsh's choice, and the Johnson Viking Valiant was actually used in the 95th anniversary of the N1BCG, the 1BCG. That's why Clark has that call sign. So that was December 11th, 2016, right here in Greenwich there, and that's what was down there at what's called there, where Clark's old school was there in the gymnasium, transmitting to Scotland, where Paul Godley originally was to accept that transmission. That's Alexa got to go. I'm not even talking to the woman. Typical woman. She's butting in. So anyway, yeah, I had a Valiant. I had an HRO 60, Steve, and I loved it. The high fidelity out of that, I had 6 coils to it, the original box and stuff. Blaine has that. N1 GTU has that. Oh, Blaine has my Valiant. Oh, Blaine has my Ranger. Oh, Chris, W2JBL has my NC300. So everything went out, but yeah, nothing like an old rig.
Hey, Steve. W2SDR. We started the carrier net in February of '04. And the dispute was with another net. It's called the Carrier Net. That was back in like 1967. They have a website and everything. They've been around a long time, and that was a very touchy situation. And you know, they didn't call it the AM Carrier Net, but that net started on AM. So that was pretty weird for a while. But the AM Carrier Net that you guys know started in February of '04.
I'll have to bring that up when Joe comes in and starts the net there. I have fun up there, you know. I forget who turned me on. W2TPS, Jim over in Long Island, told me about them, and he hasn't been on in a while, and he was running a Ranger. That's what I started off with. But yeah, and that discussion came up the other day, I think on sideband, that, you know, AM is my favorite mode of this. Not that I don't do sideband, but I haven't gone any further on the band. I got a nail stuck in my dial here on 75 meters, and now I do 160. I haven't done 40 meters, anything. I haven't done any DXing, and okay, my boys will be 5 years old, my Tornadoes, January 11th. That's the last time I spun the dial.
And Dick, W2DAP, I think he's kind of inactive. He was one of the originators. It was me, Steve, and Dick, W2DAP, and also W3MMR in National Park. But he, I hardly ever hear him anymore, but we used to both have Chevelles. George has I think it's a 71 Chevelle SS, and but I never hear him anymore either on AM. A lot of those guys went inactive a ways back, and you just never hear them anymore. W2SDR. So there you go. Anyway, the remote's sounding good, Steve. No problem. I know there's a little bit of latency with those, you know, if guys quick key and stuff, but you got a nice signal down here this evening.
Well, thank you. I'm just hanging around listening. The generator's running, and it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I thought I'd turn the radio on and say the hello to anybody who might be listening. So don't pay no attention to me. I'm just hanging out listening. WA1STH, remote control.
Hey, Steve, I mean, you probably have the best sounding remote that I've heard. I don't know what you're using for a microphone, but I mean, honest to God, I wouldn't. If you were to say that, if you didn't say that you were remote, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference.
Oh, thank you, Perry. It's a USB headset. It's called a U2, and I've had great luck with it. I get a lot of good reports on it, so. It is what it is. I'm listening on the laptop speakers and just using the boom mic on the headset because I switched over to the speakers on the computer because I didn't want to put the headset on. But thank you. I'm glad it sounds appropriate. You guys go ahead and continue what you're doing. I'll be in and out of here. So good to hear you in here this afternoon. WA1STH.
Yeah, no problem, Steve. Sounding good, man. The U2. I'm going to have to write that down. Check that out. Anyway, still nasty here, raining, 57 degrees. Seems like it's been raining for, I guess since about 9 o'clock this morning it started. nasty fall weather. Fall has finally arrived. Summer tried sticking in here as long as it could. Next thing you know, it went from 90 degrees to being in the 50s within a week. So I think it's about time to take the air conditioner out the window. I'm going to do that tonight. So I don't think I'm going to be using that anymore. But anyway, everything seems to be working good here. Now, quick question, Rob, if you're still in there. So that 160 setup that you got, how much wire do you have in the air?
And Steve, answer the question later there. On your microphoniums, I don't know if you use an iPad. I got an iPad for my Flex, which I'm setting up there so I can remote, go upstairs or whatever, yada yada, and travel. It's got a cell service on it. And I'm, going to be looking for a mic there, Is there a way to remote, I guess you're going to have to press the screen on the iPad. But anyway, we'll go over that later. The antenna is 135 feet dipole, fed with 450 ohm ladder line coming down to the, what do you call it there, the coil, the step-down transformer there, and into the two resonant coils that are in there. Those two round circles you see in the upper right-hand corner, those are two other coils like you would coil taps putting on the end of a dipole, except they're inside the box. And the left, you saw the bigger coil. That is a 3-inch PVC pipe wrapped with 50 wraps of 12-gauge wire. And then the outside, you'll see the part green wire is 6-gauge grounding wire stranded because apparently the 12-gauge was too light for the high impedance in the wattage that was going out. It fed right into that right there at the bottom. The power was getting stuck in the coil, wasn't pushing it out quick enough. So I would actually go out there after an old buzzer transmission on AM like now, and go out there, and the center coil with the 10 wraps was warm, and the electrical tape was kind of like getting on sticky there. So I discussed it with Clark, and we said, well, we're going to have to up the wire. That's why we ended up the 6-gauge. Now I do an old buzzer transmission. The coil is cold, not a warmth. And Clark says basically that would be the same thing like people try to tune up 75 meters on a 40-meter dipole. The energy gets stuck inside the tuner, and it's not getting sent out there properly. So he says, imagine that all would have been stuck back at your tuner. So 6-gauge coil on the outside, 10 wraps. Everything flows through it. Then there's about 75 feet or so or less, the 450 ohm ladder line that runs up along in through my hedges and then into the window. I don't know if you ever saw the quick desk with wing nuts so I can disconnect it, and then that runs maybe about another 12 feet of 450 ohm ladder line into the Johnson Viking kilowatt matchbox or the ATK, AT4K Palstar for 160, and then you saw the monster switches there that disconnect everything. So that's it. And Clark says it will run different on everybody's antenna according to how long the feed line comes down and goes into the house. But he says pretty much you probably could tweak that out there and clear that all up just using a tuner.
Hey, Perry.
Hey, Father.
Yeah, a simpler way to get on 160 with your antenna is to tie both of those feeders together. I think I told you before, and use your tuner as a long wire tuner. And run as many ground radios as you can from your ground point coming out of the shack out around your property. The more the better. And basically what you're doing is kind of making a quarter wave miracle out of it, except it's strung as a T antenna, and that'll work good. Now it'll work, you'll think it's working good without any radials, but the more radials you put out, the more efficient it's going to be, and then you don't have to bother with coils and all the rest of that stuff. You'd be able to load that up with the tuner that you got sitting right there. That's what I used to do in Upland, and it worked like a champ.
Okay, well, I think maybe we'll have to do that one of these weekends, because I really want to get on 160. I've been listening down there a lot, and I would really like to get on there with the guys. So like when the band goes long, everybody scoots to 160. And I think it would be fun. You know, it's great to get another band on here, and I think that would be good, and I can accomplish that here. So I would like to do that, and it wouldn't be too much work either. So now, do the ground radios have to be a certain length, or how does that work?
Just get as many out as you can that you can squeeze on your property.
That's what I'm doing. I could go further.
You know, they don't have to be a certain length.
At 25 feet there right now, and I'll put more. I can't go the other way because that's my neighbor's property. But I have a chain link fence that goes 3/4 away around, well, basically all around my property.
Current is distributed. So you could actually use 18-gauge wire if you put out 8, 10, 12, 15 radios. Even if they're only 15 feet long, like you run them out to the sidewalk out there and punch them in the ground like I did, you know, out here for my 40-meter thing. And then around your backyard, get them under that cement, you know, that sidewalk, and then run a couple all the way out through the woods and stuff. Do you follow me?
Right, that would be right, yeah, that could be done. We could definitely accomplish that. Yeah, okay, cool. That would that'd be fun. That'd be a cool little project too.
Yeah, it's called a T antenna. People have been doing that for a long time, that it could only fit a 130-foot flat top. And basically what you end up doing, if you think about it, you're making a long wire antenna that's about half wavelength long, okay? Or a half wavelength long, and a quarter wavelength long on 160, and then your ground radios are acting like the other half of the dipole. Do you follow me? It's almost like a mobile antenna.
The antenna above the radios bounce off and feed back up.
Yeah, well, then plus, you know, you're getting a nice straight up signal for, you know, good 160 local contacts. But it's kind of like making a 160 mobile antenna. And you could use loading coils and stuff, but yeah, I would just do what you do. Try it now with just a ground rod. You're going to hear everybody real good, and they're hardly going to be able to hear you, is what'll happen until you get them ground radios out. Even if you have one or two out. It'll work. You know, just get yourself a roll of wire and pull one or two out and hook it up to your ground outlet, go through the window, and you'll be surprised how that'll work.
Barry, I had a roll of 18-gauge stranded copper line, and I laid that in there and do that. Get as many as you can.
Right. Okay. It's kind of funky, like where things are here, because I got like a sidewalk. There's like my shack's at the front of my house, and the ground rod is right out of the window and right outside the front of the shack there. And then like to the right, there's a sidewalk. And then to the front, about maybe 20 feet in front of my window, is the front sidewalk. And then to the left of the ground rod, maybe 15 feet, is my neighbor's property. So, yeah, they wouldn't be that long, but I guess I could go under the. See, I don't know how it will work, like on the back side of me. Like, what do I put the? I guess they don't have to be straight. I can string them out, then make a right turn and go back towards the woods.
Yeah, I mean, what you do is don't do a real neat permanent job at first. Get yourself a roll of wire, like at Home Depot or something like that, and just lay it out there on the surface. Lay it around, you know, lay it back in the woods, a couple out there right over top of the sidewalk and everything else, and go in the shack and tune it up. I mean, don't do it all perfect and then try it. Just lay it out there. Even if you have to run like one number, 6 from your window there underneath the sidewalk, and then branch out from there. Just lay them on the ground and tack them down so they don't like coil back up on you. And they don't have to be neat. Just put them out there and load her up.
All right, I'll do that. Okay. That's the next project. Cool. Get on 160. That'd be fun. I'm looking forward to that now. W3MMR.
Yeah, I'll be back in a couple. W2SDR. Yeah, the guys use 160s. You would be shocked. You know, a lot of people think I don't have the room for it. A lot of people with mobile homes and everything else or postage stamp lots get inverted L's up for 160. They do. You'd be surprised, and it's like you're on 160 with that, and the guy's got a dynamite signal.
That's what happened with me.
Yep, that's a perfect example.
It wasn't dynamite. There's times I've been real good. I worked a guy up in Canada, VE. Then just the other night I was on, it was sideband, not AM. Was that AM? No, it wasn't on AM. It was sideband, actually, and that's the real test. The AM, it doesn't matter. That blasted through, but I was doing 180 watts on sideband, and a guy was hearing me fine in Tennessee, and I think my first contact was the VE guy. But then the conditions haven't been all that great. I'm going to get the amps all wired in there for 160 on sideband. But yeah, get as many radials out. And if you do decide to do it permanent, you got a hoe at your house?
I always have a hoe over here.
What, you don't have any money? I know. I had to use it. Edger. Well, I would take the half moon edger that you do in gardening. And the way I found the technique is, and I did this during landscaping in the garden, I would actually angle it, the handle my way towards me, and then push down on it, and then push forward. And that left me open up a gap and deep enough for me to lay the radials down. Because I got to cut the lawn, and so I can't have all these radials laying down. Some guys would just use the staples, and then over time the grass would grow over, and then some would get lifted up and get in their lawnmower. But anyway, yeah, just get out whatever you can. I said, they suggested, actually, somebody was discussing this with me, bare braided wire instead of insulated wire, and just lay that down, the copper stuff there. And I had a roll of 18 gauge coppers here for some reason, and I laid that down, and it seems to be working a little bit. But then again, I'm directly over my chain link fence, and I think that's part of the reason this antenna's always been good in this area. All right, I got to go fold the tidy whities. N1ALF.
W3MMR. Okay. All right. I just don't have any RF issues. Because I got the way my ladder line runs, it goes right up over top of the roof here. It goes out my window, up, and then I have these two pieces of wood that keep it off the gutter. One comes out the bottom underneath my gutter, and then one on top of the gutter, sticking straight up to keep it off the gutter. Then over top of my porch roof, and then I have a piece of PVC mounted on the side of the house to keep it off of the house, to keep it up above the roof but off of the house, and it goes over my cable wire. Then it goes over in the yard to a 10-foot piece of PVC, and then it makes like a right-hand turn and goes up to the tree, up to the feed point of the antenna. But there's only one way to try, only one way to find out, so. All right, go fold the tighty whities, W3MMR.
Sounds like my first ladder line at my parents' house.
Well, it's the only way I could do it. The other way, the way I first had it was I had it drooping down and then coming through the tree branches and then over. But I couldn't tune in 40 meters. Well, I could, but the lowest I could get it was right around 2. 1.9 to 2.0 SWR. So I wanted to get it out of the branches, and 2, I wanted to be able to tune it on 40. So I went away from the tree with it over into the yard to that piece of PVC and screwed one of the spreaders to the PVC, then across on an angle over to the corner of the house where the other piece of PVC is mounted to the house, and then across the roof, and then down on the front of the house and into connected to the feed-through panel in the window. But I can tune tunes every band, so speaking of it, hold on a second. Riding the tuner a little bit because of the rain. But it seems to work fine, so I don't have any RF problems in the shack right now with anything. And it works on, you can tune it flat on every band, so it's working good. W3MMR.
Yeah, it's working. It's working good. Your signal's good. Now you can go down to 160. Just be careful. I don't know what size feeder you have, but with the short antenna, you'll have lots and lots more current when you go down there on the transmission line and, you know, most of the parts of the antenna. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Do you think that setup is going to handle snow?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine.
It gets pretty heavy, like the spreaders collect snow sometimes. I never had a problem at my parents' house, and I had the same thing going on, like standoffs, and the spreaders, you know, screwed into stuff, and, you know, zigzags, basically. But, you know, it definitely, like, sagged a lot with the snow, but nothing really, like, broke.
Well, I did a lot of before I bought this antenna, I did a lot of research on it to see if it would hold up, because it's 16 gauge wire, okay, and I thought that was kind of small, but I did a lot of research, and a lot of guys up north and with ice and snow, and seen pictures of this thing covered with ice and snow covered, and you know, people have no problems with it, with anything breaking. So they seem to be pretty durable and hold up real well. So I'm not really too concerned about it. But you know, just keep an eye on it and try to knock the snow off. Plus, I don't get quite as much snow as you guys get up there. I mean, I know you're not that far from me, but you guys have a tendency to get more snow in North Jersey than we do down here around Philly. Especially, it seems like the last few years. We definitely used to get more snow than what we get now. But we still do get it. So just have to keep an eye on it. So, yep, seems to be working all right though.
Yeah, but dude, you got to watch on 160, man, using 16 gauge feeders. There's gonna be you gotta watch for zorching for sure. Like, just for that reason, because I have like an antenna that's just a little bit longer than a resonant, 80 meter. I use number 8 to feed it, and I continue that out for like the first, 12, 13 feet of each side of the antenna. There's a lot of current there on 160, just for 160. If I was not using 160 with this setup, I would have like number 14 wire,
Right. Well, this is the same. Well, I guess because, for the 160 version of this antenna, they still use the number 16, but I guess because it's longer, wouldn't have quite as much current on it. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to there's only one way to find out.
Yes, exactly. But just watch for zorching, man. If you go down there, be real careful. That's pushing it.
Hammer down, man.